everybody. Happy new week. I hope you're doing amazing. I am here with one of my recently hot off the press published authors, Jodie Lyn Brown. There she is. Not Just Your Period is her book. Good morning. How are you, Jodie?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you for having me here. It's a bit exciting to be able to come and share more about my book and its content and how it can help everybody, boys and men
I
and girls.
know.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I certainly know that I've got two little girls, one that has started a period a couple of years ago, and the other one's probably up and coming.
Mm.
Of course, it's other things that adults need to be aware of and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But let me show you guys the cover a little bit close up so you can see it while I introduce Jodie. And then we'll get stuck into the conversation. All right, you guys. So Jodie holds a Bachelor of Social Work, has four children, young adult children, lives and works in the Gympie region of Queensland, Australia, and is a volunteer for Shared Dignity, an organisation that works to end period poverty in Australia. Jodie recently published her book, Not Just Your Period, a comprehensive guide that empowers women to help them understand and embrace their menstrual cycles, advocate for menstrual equity, and connect deeply with their bodies, fostering self-awareness and well-being. On its launch day, the book achieved #1 Amazon bestseller status, as you can see from the cover. And Jodie loves to see girls and women thrive with the freedom to love and cherish their bodies, to connect with others, to speak openly about menstrual experiences, contributing to smashing shame and stigma that still pervades society today. Wow, amazing. What a topic. So where did this passion topic, what's the backstory of it? And, why did you decide to write a book on it?
Well, pretty much like you, Nat, I also have daughters. I have four children, as you said, and sorry, I have three daughters and four children. So it was about 14, 15 years ago, before all of my daughters had started their cycling, hadn't had a period yet. I really felt a driving passion to write a book, something for them that they could just have laying around, that they could just dip into when they wanted some affirmation or some kind of information that they didn't want to come and talk to me about. And at the time, there were books around, but they weren't really comprehensive. Some of them were a bit cartoony, a bit kind of dumbed down. Some had content that included dating and boys and makeup, and I didn't want any of that. I really wanted to focus on girls and women cycling, moving into those cycling years, what it means in the body, understanding all the processes and the phases. So then with all that education and knowledge, there is understanding and awareness of the own body, but then of the body and the processes in the bigger world and relationship to other women and nature and cycles throughout life. So I really wanted something comprehensive, earthy and full of connective value that encouraged girls and women to keep connecting.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's
Actually,
wonderful. And how
just
long have
saying that.
yeah.
Sorry, that didn't happen. As I say in the welcome to my book, I didn't get that out. So my daughters are like 25, 23 and 21 now, and my son is 28. So life did take over somewhat, got busy with, building houses, working, and didn't prioritize the book. But it's here now, and I hope it will be of great value to everybody else's daughters as well.
Yeah, yep. I know, definitely it's here in the cupboard, and I'm just kind of going, well, how do you encourage children of, say, 12-year-old age to read a book like yours? You tell me that.
I guess it can be used as a tool, as an adjunct, because everybody's on social media now. So it can be, people have their resources that they might look online on their computers or their phones. It's closed down. They have to keep diving into it. So to have a book laying around or on the bookshelf, on the coffee table, and doing that also contributes to, bringing these topics out into the open. There's no shame about it. It's our physical processes. We bleed for humanity, literally. So we can't force things on our children, as you know, but having it laying around, seeing them read it itself, because it is also for women. it's just more encouragement and more connection. And when you're talking to them as well, it's just always bringing in, oh, well, did you look that up in the book? Or it's all we can do.
Yeah.
We can't force it. Yeah.
Oh, I know. And just as you were speaking, I was like, oh, it might be just really good to just reference particular sections of the book rather than having to read it cover to cover, you know,
Yeah.
which might be overwhelming. And yes.
Yeah, and particularly the chapter, it's called the chunky stuff. So that goes into really educative kind of, probably a bit boring. So it's, you know, all about the phases, all about anatomy, cervical fluids, mucus, period blood, all of those things that I find our daughters are like, ah, I don't want to talk about it, mum, or stop saying those words. You know, at least they can go, and it's written in a beautifully presented book, and it's encouraging connection as well, bringing it back to the self, back to other women, community groups, nature. So it's really quite wholesome and holistic. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, what are the different, you know, obviously you've just mentioned there is a section that's a little bit more, you know, like the foundational stuff and biology and all that sort of stuff. What else is in the book that, you know, people will get from it?
Yeah, so primarily or initially, for people to understand and have that awareness, they really need that foundation of anatomy and biology and processes and hormones and why and when. You know, I do recall a time when, you know, I talked about all the things with one of my daughters, and I thought that there was this understanding, but like a year later, she thought that she ovulated in the middle of a period. So, you know, I guess sometimes capacity to grasp and really understand something isn't always there. So it's that layered learning, and the book, you can just keep going back to it. As well as all of that chunky stuff, there's a chapter on your bloody options, which discusses all the different types of period products that are available today, the benefits, pros and cons of using each one, also environmental and body impacts, because as we know, there's a lot of chemicals used in our creation of these products and our disposal of them. There's a chapter on to menopause, so girls and women can understand those women's cycles through life. Importantly, part of awareness and keeping up to date with what your body is doing. There's a keeping track chapter, so discussing all the different ways that you could keep track of your cycles. Menstrual well-being is a really important one, and that's where that part of that education and that fully understanding, we can connect what's going on with our bodies and how we might need to act, like in our well-being, for how we manage our diet or our exercise or our mental well-being. But also the other part of my book is very much focused on connection. So then if you're looking at your menstrual well-being, if you're not connecting with other women or with community groups or even forums online, medical practitioners, holistic services, you know, we're keeping track and having that awareness of our cycles, so then we can connect and get help when we need to. There's a lot of girls and women out there who experience a lot of different symptoms and are just not sure where to go or what to do. So that's just really crucial for our ongoing health, not just menstrual, but our whole well-being, you know, through life. So the connection is a strong thing that's woven through the book, encouraging everybody to keep connecting with themselves, other women, having important conversations, which also helps to smash shame and stigma. Yeah, it's super important, even for boys and men around us. We need to have those conversations and that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you cover off stuff about PMS in there?
Yeah, that's also in that menstrual well-being chapter, because it is experienced, because it's all to do with our hormones and what our hormones are doing. But sometimes a lot of those symptoms can be helped with, you know, our lifestyle, as well as going and receiving other help from other practitioners, etc. So again, it's coming back to that awareness and having conversations and really listening to our bodies.
I love it. I've heard also, I've read another book. I don't know what it was called now off the top of my head, but it talked about how the importance for women to, even within the cycle of the 28 days, let's say, or even with the moon cycles, you know, how sometimes that can be interlinked together, but also how at a particular, let's say when you are having your period, that's kind of the time to like just take a rest. You probably won't have as much energy. And like, you know, if you can sort of observe how your cycle is at different stages, like there's 4 phases, just like the moon has 4 phases or whatever, at certain, you know, energetic levels, like, you know, how when you're ovulating, you're probably like the most attractive to, you know, like you're creating opportunities or whatever it is, you know. Have you heard about that? Is that something that you...
Yeah, definitely. And so one of the chapters in the book is called Moontime Magic, and that actually discusses,
Ah,
the feminine cycle, the woman's cycle, linked with nature, obviously, and the moon cycles.
yeah,
And that also then links to the chapter on culture and cultural stories, because many, many hundreds and thousands of years ago, in traditional like earth-based societies, women actually bled at the new moon or the dark moon. And so that also links with the chapter on menstrual synchronicity that lots of women talk about. So all of the women would end up bleeding at the same time, and they would retreat together in a space of calm and peace, and nurturing themselves and each other. And that was at the dark or the new moon. So there's lots of history and lots of culture associated with that. And in those chapters, I do encourage girls and women just to, even if it's not something that they think is possible or don't quite understand it, just to, even in your keeping track, just look up at the moon or have a look on your app and see what the moon's doing, and see if you can notice any patterns. And
yeah,
if you are bleeding on the dark moon, how do you feel? We are always, more introverted and, go away world and want to look after the self. But then
yeah,
sometimes it's reported that if people are bleeding on their menstruation phase, and it's a full moon, they may notice that they are actually still a little bit like extroverted. So it's just all part of watching, being aware, feeling, and noticing. But yeah, there's lots
yeah.
of all that kind of really interesting facts and things to take notice of in the book. So it's not all
I think...
junky up and dry.
Oh no, and I think it gives you sometimes a lot of answers. Like I noticed that when there's a big strawberry moon just recently, and I was, you know, having my period during that period, and it's like, oh, that's a double whammy right there, you
Yeah,
know. But yeah, also like, you know, that sometimes, you know, I might be feeling a little bit sad or depressed, whatever it is, you know, kind of like low key, and often, you know, a couple of days later, I end up getting my period or something, and it's like, oh, okay, that all makes sense.
yeah. That's
Right.
right. And and it's important for everybody to understand that's all linked with hormones as well. It's all the hormonal action through the body
Right.
that is creating this, and therefore everything in our body is linked together. Nothing. All our systems aren't islands, so that affects our mental health, our emotions, our physical body. You know yourself when you're leading up to your period or during your period. You might be achy or weak, or your joints might be loose. So therefore, that might create the awareness to be a bit more gentle with yoga, and don't stretch too far, or don't go and push your energy too far in life, just to pull it back and really nurture the self. So connecting
Yeah.
with other women as well and talking about these things helps us understand those processes and be validated that, oh, yes, this is normal or this is okay.
It's one of those topics that people don't talk about. You know, I'm okay with talking about it, but I'm like, you know, I'm very straightforward. But a lot of people feel it's something like that's taboo, and like it's like, oh, you know, or they don't share, which I think that's where, you know, I think your book would bring for those people who are maybe a bit shy about speaking to others, might give them some answers from an expert like yourself who's looked at this topic, you know, top to bottom, left and right and center. So
Yeah.
when you talk about period poverty, what does that mean? Explain it to me.
Well, I'll just go back to a step what you just said just prior
Yeah,
to that. And, that shame and stigma, because it's kind of still in the cupboard, no one talks about it.
yeah,
There is a chapter called Media and Marketing and Messages that we receive, because we are receiving them all the time, whether we think we are or not, with magazines,
yeah,
TVs, billboards, and even the language and the words that we use or don't use. and the eons of patriarchy, where women have been subdued, and the thought that menstrual blood is dirty. And in the culture chapter, there's lots of examples of how women are shunned because they are impure or dirty because of their period blood, which is absolutely ridiculous considering what it's for. It is for nurturing new life
Yeah.
and continuation of humans on the planet. So there's thousands of years of trying to overcome those messages.
Mm.
And that also leads into period poverty. For many years, all of our period products were taxed because they weren't essential items. So, Share the Dignity, one of the big not-for-profit organisations here in Australia who are seeking to end period poverty, they actually were really amazing in that space, and they got the the tampon tax, as it was called, axed in Australia. So there's just so many layers of it. So feeding into that period poverty, a lot of people haven't even heard that it exists, which is just an example of our unseen or unrealized privilege, I think, because, we have our period, we go and buy the products and then we buy more, and, like we have them in our handbag in the bathroom. And there's a lot of women and girls who don't have access to period products because of poverty, basically. So they could be families living on the edge financially. They could be single mums. Single mums might choose not to eat rather than, they need to buy their daughters some products. Girls aren't going to school, and, you get back to other countries who aren't as, let's call it, developed as ours, and they don't go to school for a week, or the women don't go to work because they're bleeding. They don't have anything. So in Australia, there's those people on the financial line. There's people who are homeless, experiencing homelessness, sleeping rough. Not only may they not have any products, they could be using old socks, rags, serviettes from cafes, toilet papers. Then that feeds into your menstrual well-being, infection, let alone your mental health and your emotional state through having to do that. So yeah, there are some great organisations working in that space, and they go through there's 3 tiers in those organisations. So it's all about education of girls, women, men, everybody in society, and there's also support on the ground, giving free products to women, spread through community centres, all kinds of places. Schools, and then there's also advocacy, which can help change policy, all of that kind of stuff. So period poverty is insidious, and it's really awful in this modern age that we still have this in modern societies everywhere, and it's hidden.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there something us as individuals could do to support this cause?
Yeah, so my last chapter of the book, called Period Poverty, I do outline a few of the different organisations around the world. Some are international, like another one is Days for Girls. They are operating in all countries, and they actually have little chapters in different areas that make cloth menstrual pads. And then they bundle them up and send them to countries, maybe in Kenya or Cambodia, or people who actually don't go to school or work because of no products. So
Yes.
there's the international ones, but Share the Dignity in particular in Australia is a fantastic organisation. In that chapter I encourage people to jump on board because all of these organisations have a whole series of things that they do as part of their program. And it would be great just to jump onto the website, have a look at what they do, and be like, what do I think I could do? Just choose something minimal, even in the beginning, just to start stepping into that space. Coming up in August is the Dignity Drive for Share the Dignity. So in a lot of large organisations, large companies, Bunnings is one, Woolies is another, and lots of other businesses, you might see big pink boxes at the checkouts with Share the Dignity on it, so people can put their products in. Then they're all gathered up and distributed to community centres, women's health centres, schools, anywhere of need. And that's that real support on the ground, getting products to girls and women who need it.
And nowadays I've seen the invention of a lot of reusable, like, undies that are period undies and all that sort of stuff. So that's probably a more long term, like rather than disposable? Would that be better for the environment as well, those reusable undies?
And I guess they're probably not so great, the cloth pads and the period undies, for people who are experiencing homelessness and sleeping rough, because then if you imagine you have to have somewhere to wash them,
Yep.
people experiencing that level of hardship often don't have somewhere to shower, so let alone wash clothes. But yes, they're amazing for the environment because we're not throwing pads and tampons into landfill, basically. So yeah, period undies are becoming widely available through chemists and supermarkets, online, and also menstrual pads. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
always.
I do discuss that in that chapter though, about your bloody options. So if you are going to trial those or use them, awesome, but you do need to be prepared. So if you're going out, you need another one, and you need maybe a snap-lock bag or some container that you're going to put the other one into. And you can't leave it like a lunchbox in your school bag. You have to take it out and soak it and wash them. So you need to be committed, but it's also a really wholesome feeling to know that you're taking such charge and control of your body in that way, and you're not using kind of chemical products either.
Yeah, I love it. And there's so many and do you have any hot tips of when people get stuck? They didn't take anything with them?
Ask other women. See, we need that connection. We need to talk about it. Obviously, we've all been there, and we might use the toilet paper, but as soon as I find another woman, I'll be like, oh my God, please, have you got a pad or a tampon? And everyone's like, sure. Like, there's no shame in that. Like, because we all find ourselves in that place.
Yeah.
Over us.
Yeah. No, and everyone would love to help someone else if they got stuck in that.
Yeah, we feel almost grateful that someone's come up and asked us, hey.
Yeah. I think
And
it's
share
like,
the dignity. Sorry, you go on.
and we have a little delay. That's okay. You go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, share the dignity. Also have dignity vending machines that they're spotted throughout Australia, but they're actually the first free vending machine other than condoms, I believe. Yeah, so it actually took them a while to get these made. So they're in some schools, they're in community outlets, so people can go and get a free pack of pads or tampons.
That's amazing. That's cool. All right, so tell us now, how was the process of writing the book? Like, did you speak it out? Did you type it out? How long, what was the discipline you had to complete the project?
Well, I have to be really honest here. My discipline wasn't too great because life got a bit crazy for me, and I know it gets crazy for everybody. I did not speak it out because I have a lot of kind of research and kind of itty gritty kind of things that I really wanted to nut out.
Yep.
So I didn't speak it. I did take about 12 months to write my book. And obviously at the end, there's all those things getting it prepared for publication. So it would have been about 12 months. But in that time, COVID was happening, things happened with work, things happened with my living situation. So I did prioritize lots of other things.
Yeah.
But I kept stepping into, a couple of hours writing here, a couple of hours writing there, or making my own little mini goals.
Yeah.
And the wonderful thing about going with you guys is that I had that constant check-in. Sometimes I would text or email Julie, hey, I'm feeling scatty, I'm feeling useless, I'm feeling of no value, what am I doing? And she would ring me or make a Zoom. If she hadn't heard from me in a month, she would be like, hey, you all right? How's it going? So that is super valuable. So that was something that kept me going and actually pushed me over the line in the end, not only to do my own goal, but to achieve for, the supporters, you guys who are carrying me along as well.
Yeah, and your win and getting the book out is our win because we want to see the final product of the journey. And 12 months, even though we say 3 to 4 months and all that sort of stuff after our, say, 3-day program, even 12 months is still a fast way to do a book because a lot of people will tell you they've been writing this for years or decades or all that sort of stuff. So because you made that commitment and you were held accountable, it's like you had to keep shifting your focus back onto that because it's like, okay, I made the commitment to myself, I invested in myself, we want to see it, and it's a beautiful product. I've how to look, you know, your book is super duper value. You know, so I think anyone, you know, that's any woman should have this, because you could gift it to somebody else as well, you
Yeah,
know.
it is a beautiful book. And you know, those self-doubts that we have along the way, you know, this was probably about the fifth iteration of this book, like from when I started writing it, you know, 14 or 15 years ago. Those
Yeah.
kind of self-doubts. I still see other wonderful period books that come out now, and I'm like, oh, you know, that's so much better, or this or that. But I look at them and they have their own value. And they're
Yeah.
actually not better. They're just different. They're
Right.
presented differently. I've incorporated probably extra stuff because that's who I am, just like give it all,
Mm.
give all the stuff, and you know, you just step into it when you need it. So I really think that we all have a voice that is different, and people who are reading or going to look for something find what voice suits them to look at.
Yeah, I always say embrace your flavor.
Yeah,
You know, the enemy of joy is comparison, right? And so, you know, same thing with what we do. There's so many people that help other people write books, but whoever connects with me and really aligns with what our values are and how we do it will end up working with me. Whoever doesn't, they'll find their expert out there in the world that's for them. And same with books. I always say, don't ever think your book or your story is not unique, because no one can do the flavor that you do. No one can do the Jodie Lyn flavor and the way you've written this book. And for some people who are listening to this interview today, and if they connect with you and they really love what you've said, they'll buy your book, right? Others will go find other people and all that sort of stuff. So let's.
And just on that, you know, looking at the ages for this book, it isn't dumbed down. It isn't like a younger girl's cartoony or like a basic level. It just does give all the information, anatomy speaking, health speaking, cycle speaking, and all that connection to the broader nature and the world we live in. So I suggest it's around about from age 12, you know, depending on literacy levels, age 12 and, you know, for women. So
Yeah.
anything under that 12, depending on your child and their literacy and their cognitive and understanding, you might want something a little bit younger.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for explaining that. So let's share where people can buy your book. I'm going to share your website on the screen. And if you're not listening to this or watching this as a video, but you're listening to this as a podcast, the website is notjustyourperiod.com. Just.com, isn't it? No AU.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Perfect. So you can see it, guys, on the screen. If you can see this as a video, of course, there it is on the screen. And you can scroll down and there's buy buttons there that you can go through. So Jodie, and plus the book is also available on all your good online reseller stores like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all of those places. Plus you can get a Kindle version if you like reading books that way. And kids, sometimes that's how they want to like kind of store their books. So that might be an idea as well. What's the intention now behind the book? What do you hope to do? Or was this the book was the end point, like what you wanted to bring out into the world? Is there anything more you'd like to be doing?
That's a good question. It originally was the end point because it's been such a long-term goal for me, and really to honor myself in writing it and my daughters and, you know, everybody else who'll get value. But from writing this, I really see that there's value to make a bit more of a package out of it. So I am working on a cycle tracking calendar, an actual paper one. I know there's apps out now, but like a beautiful paper one that people can have on the wall, and combined with not just your period journal, so people can get a bit more expressive about writing about symptoms and their feelings in their body and their mental health. And another book, it will be not just her period, and it'll be about building menstrual literacy to support the girls and women in your life. So that's for boys and men.
I love it.
Really envisage like literally a smaller one, like a little A5, and
Yes.
it'll, you know, we need that to help smash shame and stigma, to support women to get knowledge and awareness out in the world. And then beyond that, I'd like to do a little online program where people can download so they can take it into their own families and communities to run little menstrual literacy circles, and a book for each participant would be part of that.
Excellent. And I think you should do an app too.
Oh, an app as well. Okay.
Just because I use this free app for years and years and years and years, probably as long as apps have existed. It's called Period Log, and And I think if you created your own thing and embedded into it like a little bit of the journaling and things like that, I think it would be really good, because then someone who's curious about what's going on with their energy levels or whatever and how they're feeling, they could like kind of go back through some journal entries and see if there's a pattern of what's going on. But I think, and I've taught my daughter how to use the app, because I know it's easy to just go, when at least to track, so that I said, if anything went wrong, your doctor's going to ask you, are you regular, you know, is your period regular? And if you're not tracking, how do you know, or how do you know when to expect it? What if you're in a
Definitely. And that's something that I talk about in that keeping track chapter, is like having a history. It's not for anybody else, you know, so to know your own normal and what your own levels are. And then when you do go to the doctor or a holistic person, you can go, oh, actually, this is what's been happening. And you do have a bit of a history to be able to share it. So that's helping your own health then. Yeah, good one, Nat.
And on a fun side note, when you plan all your holidays you're going to go to, so I knew we're heading out to Bali tomorrow for 10 days, but I knew that obviously I had my period last week, so no period and holidays, so I don't have to take anything like that with me. But it helps you with the planning, or even with the mindset, okay, it's going to happen in the last 3 days or whatever. I think that's also a really handy thing to have the app for, because the app also alerts you 3 days to go. It's like,
Definitely. And on that, Bali have massive menstrual pads. I don't know if you've seen them, but I was over there a few years ago and had some disastrous periods, like in my perimenopause blood floods when I got to Bali, and I had to go to the nearest shop, and they're often such little bodies, those beautiful Indonesian women, but their pads are massive. They're like a nappy.
I always take my own. I have my favorites, and they pack away with me, and I know how many I need, and I just like, even if I go to America or Canada, you know, in developed countries. But yeah, bring your own. I love it. Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun and very insightful, and hopefully people picked up, you know, some hot tips. Guys, go get that book, gift it to someone that you know, because more than half the people in the world are women, and as you said, not just her period is the next one that'll you know, then encapsulate all of society. So I really love it. Congratulations, Jodie. You've brought out a beautiful product, so much value for the, you know, society, as you say. There it is, not just your period. So guys, you know, have an amazing week ahead, and thank you, Jodie, for joining us. And let's say what we need to say. Smash it out.
Smash it out.
I love it. See you guys. See you in a couple of weeks after the school holidays. Bye.